I once married up to Song Mingyuan, living a lifetime with him in perfect harmony. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the moment I fell into the water at 16. Voices clamored on the shore, yet no one dared to jump in and save me. I struggled to lift my head, and happened to meet Song Mingyuan's evasive gaze. He stood behind the crowd, impeccably dressed, yet made no move to act. In that instant, I knew he had also come back. Perhaps still carrying regret for saving me in our past life, watching his back as he turned away. I suddenly smiled. Then with a flip, I swam straight toward the shore, no matter. I had long since learned to swim. I needed no one to save me. Besides, he was never the only one who regretted that life. Icy lake water flooded into my mouth and nose. It took me a good while to process before I realized I seemed to have experienced rebirth. And rebirth right at the moment I fell into the water at 16. In my past life, when I attended the spring banquet, I had merely happened to match Song Mingyuan's poem and received a word of praise from him. That alone made me a target for the noble ladies who adored him, and they secretly pushed me into the lake, watching me struggle desperately in the water. The young ladies on shore covered their mouths with handkerchiefs and giggled. The daughter of a mere fifth-rank official, whose mother is just some lowly merchant unfit for polite society. How dare she covet the Duke's heir? That is right. Song Mingyuan was the heir of the Duke's household. Handsome and upright in character, he was quite popular among the noble young ladies. It was because he was kind-hearted. When others were afraid of taking responsibility and didn't dare jump in to save me, he resolutely dove in and carried me ashore. An unmarried woman having skin-to-skin contact with a man would have her spine broken by gossip. Afterwards, no one expected that Song Mingyuan would actually come to propose and marry me into his family. My thoughts were interrupted by the suffocating sensation of choking on water. I struggled to lift my head toward the shore and met a pair of familiar eyes. The owner of those eyes was still elegant and graceful, like a jade tree in the wind. But his gaze kept dodging, not daring to meet mine at all. A thought flashed through my mind like lightning. Perhaps Song Mingyuan had also experienced rebirth. Moreover, he regretted saving me in our past life and being forced to marry me because of it. Now with a chance to start over, he was hesitating whether to save me again. In the end, he bit his lip and turned to leave. I watched his retreating figure and smiled. Then I dove headfirst into the water and quickly swam to the shore. I won't let myself fall in the same place twice. That is why, after getting married in my past life, I overcame my fear of water and secretly learned to swim. It is better to keep your own life in your own hands. After all, Song Mingyuan isn't the only one who doesn't plan to live that kind of life again. When I came ashore, my maidservant Chundao was crying frantically, wiping her tears as she rushed over to drape clothes on me. The lights by the lake were dim at night, with only bits of moonlight sprinkling down. Plus the clothes were added in time, so my reputation wasn't really ruined. But the noble ladies who pushed me into the water still wouldn't let me go. Led by the third princess Zhao Lingshuang, they kept spreading rumors about me. Look at her. She'd even fake drowning just to get the young lord's attention. What a case of losing the bait while trying to catch a fish. She had to swim ashore herself in the end, looking like a drowned rat. How embarrassing. Su Tingshui, did you see? Brother Mingyuan didn't even glance at you once. Don't show up again and dirty his eyes. Don't think you can seduce the young lord by showing off a few poems. Who do you even think you are? With your family background, you are not even worthy of being the young lord's concubine. We should have just sent any servant to fish her out earlier. She is only fit to marry that kind of lowly person. The filthy words kept coming. I looked at the corner of moon-white robes hidden behind the tree, feeling a slight sting in my heart, counting it up. Having lived 2 lives, though I've returned to 16, my mind is already that of a decrepit old person. Why would I bother getting angry with these spoiled little girls? Besides, these noble ladies from prestigious families, I'll still need to use them in the future, so I can't afford to offend them. So I wiped the water off my face and nodded with a beaming smile. What the young ladies say is right. Tingshui comes from an unremarkable family. So how would I dare covet the Duke's heir? Under the heavens, who doesn't know that the third princess is learned and refined? beautiful as a flower, and is truly a match made in heaven with young Master Song. Third Princess Jia Lingshuang probably didn't expect me to be so thick-skinned. Being humiliated and framed by her group like this. Not only did I not cry, but I could still grovel and heap praises on her. For a moment, she stared with her almond eyes, unable to speak. But thinking about how I said she and Song Mingyuan were a good match, a blush crept across her face. I struck while the iron was hot. Your Highness, the princess is peerlessly beautiful. My family's silk shop recently received a batch of rare moonlight brocade from the western regions. Extremely hard to come by, and it complements the princess's fair, luminous skin perfectly. If you have time, princess, you must come take a look. Not just silk. My family's shop also has many trendy goods from exotic lands, guaranteed to be one of a kind in the capital. When you marry young Master Song someday, using them will surely add to your grandeur. Jia Lingshuang's face grew redder and redder from my words. She even forgot to make things difficult for me. She just twisted her handkerchief and pouted coyly. How can you spout such nonsense? Mingyuan Gage and I, we don't have. While she was distracted, I seized the chance to excuse myself and leave, secretly breathing a sigh of relief. Jia Lingshuang is of noble birth. If she truly wanted to torment me, I probably couldn't escape it. Fortunately, she is deeply in love with Song Mingyuan, and quite enjoyed hearing praise about how well matched they are. So I narrowly escaped disaster. In this life, being strangers with Song Mingyuan is actually quite good. In my previous life, the third princess, Jia Lingshuang, was also madly in love with Song Mingyuan like this. So after I married him, I was deliberately targeted at every kind of banquet. To avoid suspicion, men and women sat separately. However well Song Mingyuan thrived among the men, I suffered just as much torment among the women. For the sake of the Duke's mansion's reputation, I always swallowed all the bitterness alone. I remember once, at a banquet held at the royal villa's horse grounds, Jia Lingshuang pretended to walk alongside me. But when no one was watching, she pushed me into the stable. Caught off guard, I fell sitting into the filth all over the ground. Even my hairbun was stained with muck, utterly disheveled. There was no one around, and calling for help would only invite more ridicule. I gritted my teeth and got up, found a secluded spot, and climbed up the wall with my bare hands. While climbing over, I was so flustered that I badly sprained my ankle. Just as cold sweat was dripping from the pain, I happened to see Jia Lingshuang intimately holding onto Song Mingyuan's arm, her voice so soft it could drip water. "Brother Mingyuan," Su Tingshe said. "She wasn't feeling well and left first. It is late. Would you escort me back?" Song Mingyuan didn't even turn to glance at the female guest seats to verify, and responded to her in a gentle voice. "Watch your step, princess." And I, dragging that swollen foot, walked for nearly 2 shichen before quietly returning to the Duke's manor. The manor gates were locked tight, with no one waiting, as if I, the properly wedded wife, was nothing more than an insignificant object. Even so, I harbored no resentment back then, only thought I wasn't good enough. Another example was the New Year's Eve banquet at the palace that year. By custom, titled ladies had to offer toasts and blessings to high-ranking consorts and princesses. When it was Jia Lingshuang's turn, she deliberately spilled all the scalding wine onto my hand. Searing pain struck, and the back of my hand immediately swelled red. Yet Jia Lingshuang covered her lips with a handkerchief, her tone full of vexation and innocence. How could Madame Song be so careless? Can't even hold a wine cup steady. My fingertips trembled from the pain, yet I had to accept all the mocking gazes that clung to me from every direction. I instinctively looked up, just wanting to find Song Mingyuan's figure. But what I saw was him slightly furrowing his brow, turning his head away, and conversing quietly with others. He never looked at me again. Back then, looking at his profile that seemed faintly displeased, my heart was filled with guilt. Someone like him, a figure as ethereal as an exiled immortal, and I had embarrassed him again. These tiny torments, like a slow-acting poison, bit by bit, eroded all my vitality, and I surprisingly gradually got used to searching for a bit of self-deluded warmth in these cold ashes. Because, in my view, he should have had a more respectable wife. Yet because he saved me, he sacrificed his entire life. After all, I owed him. But no matter how much I owed in my past life, I had already repaid it all. I did everything I could to clear away all worries for Song Mingyuan. His official career was smooth, his household peaceful, and he lived a very comfortable life. I originally thought he should have been satisfied with this life too. Only now do I understand that he actually regretted it deeply. Regretted saving me. Regretted marrying me. Regretted spending a lifetime with me. To say it doesn't hurt would be a lie. But when it comes to regrets, Song Mingyuan might not have as many as me. Such a life of isolation and constant caution. This time, whoever wants to live that life can have it. The more I walked, the lighter my steps became. When passing through the front hall, I happened to come across a group of young men laughing and playing drinking games. Seeing me, someone whistled at me. That must be Miss Sue who matched young Master Song's poetry, right? I heard that to attract the young master's attention, she jumped into the lake herself, trying to pull off a damsel in distress act. So scheming, huh? Too bad young Lord Song didn't fancy her, and it ended up being a big joke. Didn't she just lose the wife and the soldiers? Who would dare come to propose after this? I think this Miss Sue has a pretty face. Why not let me take her as a concubine? As they spoke, several men holding wine cups drunkenly blocked my path. Miss Sue, the young lord doesn't want you. How about coming with me? I only have 2 concubines at home. I definitely won't neglect you. The speaker was Chen Yong, the second young master of Vice Minister Chen's household. This man had always indulged in wine and women, a notorious dandy in the capital. If I got entangled with him, it would really ruin my reputation. Though I wasn't afraid, it would disgust me. I immediately stepped back a few paces, clutched my cloak tightly, lowered my head and said softly, "May I trouble the young masters to make way? My father instructed me to return early. The carriage is already waiting outside. Please be so kind as to let me through." As soon as I said this, it triggered another burst of raucous laughter. Hasn't Lord Su left the capital to deal with the floods? Besides, even if you bring him up, we're not scared. The daughter of a mere 5th rank official becoming our concubine isn't beneath you. Exactly, our second young master Chen is wealthy beyond measure and full of vigor. Enter his backyard, and you'll be living in luxury, you know. These young masters must have had too much to drink. Otherwise, on an occasion like today, they wouldn't have the audacity to act like this. My gaze drifted toward Song Mingyuan standing not far away. Although his back was turned to this place, his rigid posture betrayed the composure he was trying to fake. He had obviously noticed the commotion here, but was afraid of getting involved with me and deliberately pretended not to notice. After being husband and wife in my past life, I still never truly understood him, probably noticing me. Looking at Song Mingyuan, Chen Yong's eyes darted around before he turned his target toward him. "Young Lord Song, this Miss Sue is gazing at you so longingly. She truly has deep feelings for you. Do you want her? If you do, I'll just give her to you." Song Mingyuan had a fine reputation and was deeply admired by women. Chen Yong and the others had long been displeased about this, and now seized the opportunity to give him trouble. If he actually took the bait and made me his concubine, it would tarnish his pristine reputation. If he didn't intend to intervene, they could act even more brazenly. Either way, they wouldn't lose out. Having been called out publicly, Song Mingyuan could no longer pretend to be deaf and mute, so he had no choice but to turn around. But he never took a single step closer, merely saying indifferently, "Today is the spring banquet hosted by the Empress Dowager. It would be best if everyone didn't go too far." After saying that, he actually turned his back again and walked away completely. My heart felt somewhat bitter. A lifetime of marital affection wasn't even worth him stepping in to help me out once. But it doesn't matter, I still have options at this point. Just as I was looking for a chance to retreat to the ladies' section, a powerful voice suddenly boomed like thunder. A bunch of grown men picking on a young girl, and you don't feel ashamed of yourselves. Everyone turned around in unison, and saw a man dressed in brocade robes standing behind me with his hands clasped behind his back. His expression was composed, his posture relaxed. It was actually the ever-victorious General Yan Fufeng, who had just returned from the border to report on his duties. He wasn't of high birth, But with his fierce and valiant skills in slaying enemies, he had almost never lost a battle. His Majesty admired him and bestowed upon him the title of ever-victorious general. It is just that he was rarely in the capital and had no backing, so he wasn't taken seriously by these noble young masters. Sure enough, Chen Yang glanced at him, his face full of mockery. Oh my, I was wondering who it was. Isn't this our ever-victorious general? What is this? The great general's done killing enemies and switched to playing hero saving the beauty. Yan Fufeng wasn't intimidated by him. He stepped forward and planted himself right in front of Chen Yang. He was tall and built with solid muscle, standing there like a small mountain, radiating an overwhelming presence. He narrowed his eyes, his tone chilling. If the soldiers defending our homeland are protecting scum like you, who bully the weak, then I'd rather resign to His Majesty tomorrow and go home to farm. Chen Yang didn't expect that Yan Fufeng would not only refuse to give him face, but his words were so sharp and blunt, showing them absolutely no regard. In an instant, his face turned ashen, and his imposing manner weakened. You are so full of yourself. Don't make me go back and tell my father. Yan Fufeng glanced at him sideways, as if looking at something filthy. Pretty tough when bullying the weak, but scared enough to run to daddy when you meet a hard nut like me. Stop coming out and embarrassing yourself. Go home and curl up in your mommy's arms and keep sucking her tit. He had none of the dignity of a noble family, daring to say any crude words. A few of the noble young masters originally standing behind Chen Yang couldn't help but burst out laughing with a PFF. Chen Yang's face flushed bright red, but he had no way to deal with him. He definitely couldn't beat him in a fight. If he traded insults with him like some common street riffraff, he'd only lose more face. Chen Yang thought it over but couldn't find any chance of turning the tables, so he could only say viciously, "Just you wait and see." Then he shoved through the crowd and ran off. Yan Fufeng let out a teach, rolled his eyes at that rather pathetic retreating figure, then turned back and gave me a formal bow. This Yan has eaten and drunk his fill, and was just about to head back to the mansion. If the young lady doesn't mind, I'll escort you to the entrance. Yan Fufeng had a sharp tongue, but a good heart. With him offering me this convenience, I naturally couldn't ask for more. After escorting me to the carriage, he nodded and bid me farewell. Without acting any differently for having helped me out of the predicament, I was just about to step onto the carriage when a familiar voice stopped me. Tingshu! My back stiffened, and I silently turned around. Sung Mingyuan stood bathed in moonlight at a distance, neither too close nor too far from me, his expression complicated, that he followed me here. I was truly a bit surprised. This person I had watched for a lifetime, for some reason, now felt somewhat unfamiliar to me. I opened my mouth, not knowing what to say, so I simply raised an eyebrow at him, waiting for what he had to say next. He seemed to be deliberating how to begin, and finally sighed, saying with quite some guilt, "I am sorry, just now. I didn't deliberately not save you." Him saying this, he must know that I had also experienced rebirth. No wonder. I had swum ashore by myself, that he could tell wasn't strange at all. I didn't plan to hide it either. It is just since he'd decided not to get involved with me in this life. Why did he follow me to tell me this? I thought this way, so I asked out loud. Is that so? Then why? He lowered his head, seemingly guilty, his gaze not daring to meet mine. I was afraid that if I stepped in, it would be like in our past life, making the third princess target you even more. So he knew all along that I was verbally humiliated by them, saying I wasn't worthy of him, being isolated, being targeted, being smeared with filth. He knew all of it perfectly well. But when I naively wanted to bear everything alone, not wanting to cause him trouble, he never once thought of stepping forward to stand up for me. Only watched helplessly as I suffered all those grievances. Because he didn't love me, that is why he remained indifferent, right? Fortunately in this life, we can both live differently now. I let out an "oh" and turned around, getting onto the carriage swiftly. The young lord should hurry back. If someone sees you, be careful, you won't get what you wish for in this life either. I left calmly under Song Mingyuan's hesitant gaze, as if he wanted to speak but held back. But the sound of hooves drew closer, seeming to draw level with me. I lifted the carriage curtain to look outside, and happened to meet a pair of bright eyes, the moonlight reflected in his eyes, shimmering like rippling water. It was Yan Fufeng, the ever-victorious general who had rescued me earlier. He sat on horseback, greeting me with a beaming smile. "Is Miss Su all right?" I was slightly startled, understanding he was asking about how I was put in a difficult spot earlier, and replied sincerely, "Thank you, General. I am fine. Come to think of it, I should thank the General for coming to my aid." This was the truth. Without him, I probably couldn't have extricated myself so gracefully today. He waved his hand, completely unconcerned. It was nothing. They merely rely on their fathers and brothers for protection. When it comes to real ability, they may not have much. But you, Miss Su. His voice paused, his gaze toward me clear and bright, as if extremely interested. "I heard that you've been managing your family's business. Quite methodically." This topic pleased me, so I perked up a bit and felt less restrained. They're just some family shops passed down through generations, barely getting by. In this world, it is never easy for a woman to do business. Yan Fufeng nodded, non-committal. Indeed, it is not easy. But where there is a will, there is a way. After the new year, my camp will need to purchase a batch of new winter clothes and bedding, but the quality from regular procurement is always inconsistent. I have an impertinent request. Might I trouble Miss to help me order a suitable batch of goods? As long as the quality is fine, the payment will certainly be no less than market price. This time, I truly couldn't hide my astonishment. I looked up in surprise, meeting his eyes that held a faint smile. This wasn't me doing him a favor. It was him giving me an opportunity to make a name for myself. "General, why would you?" I couldn't help blurting out, but then abruptly stopped myself. We had only met twice. Why would he help me to this extent? He seemed to understand my confusion, and his smile deepened. His gaze swept over the trace of wariness I hadn't fully concealed, and he said frankly, "First, I've heard that the Su family shops have an excellent reputation and never engage in dishonest dealings. During disasters, they even distribute porridge and medicine, saving the common folk from suffering. A proprietor like that is worthy of trust. Second, I too was born from humble origins, earning my title of general through my own blade and spear. I've never been able to stand those useless sons of noble families. Whoever they want to humiliate, I'll go out of my way to help. As for the third reason, I noticed Miss Su has quite the courage. Most girls would have been in tears facing so many people bullying them, yet you seem to have everything under control, not scared at all. I was thinking, even if I hadn't spoken up today, you'd probably have found a way out on your own. So, I find you quite interesting, and want to see how far you can go if someone gives you a hand. I am quite interesting. Actually, I've just lived 2 lives. So my skin is thicker than a young girl's, that is all. Besides, I was already used to all that mockery and ridicule in my past life, and familiar with how those people behave. But Yan Fufeng's undisguised candor put me at ease. His words were arrogant and brazen. If they got out, he'd surely be criticized. Yet he just said it so bluntly, bold and unrestrained, fearless and open. Dealing with someone like this, no need to second-guess everything. I really like that. In my past life, I only focused on the inner household and Song Mingyuan. I'd only heard that this ever-victorious general was brave and skilled in battle. And in the end, due to an extremely difficult prolonged battle and insufficient provisions, he died on the battlefield. So he turned out to be such an interesting person. I immediately nodded and bowed in greeting. "Thank you for the general's kindness. Tingshui will surely handle this matter properly and absolutely won't disappoint the general." Seeing that I didn't act coy or refuse, a look of approval surfaced in his eyes again. He straightened up and squeezed his legs together. The horse neighed and swiftly charged into the night. Only the fading echoes remained, lingering in the night wind. Then I shall await good news. In the days that followed, I devoted all my attention to procuring cotton clothes for the military camp. I handled everything personally throughout, not daring to slack off even a bit. Yan Fufeng would occasionally come to see me, keeping track of the clothing sewing progress together with me. He never put on airs as a general. Most of the time he dressed plainly, mingling in the warehouse or workshop, listening to the old craftsman's explanations, and watching me compare fabrics. Sometimes he would even ask questions with great interest. As this happened more often, the workers also went from their initial stiffness to becoming more natural. I got along very well with him, too. Yan Fufeng would share stories of the northern frontier's customs and sites, while I would talk about the differences between southern and northern trade routes. Back and forth, we surprisingly found that our views on many things aligned quite well. Days passed silently amid floating cotton fluff and soft laughter. The relationship between Yan Fufeng and me also seemed to quietly grow closer through these trivial everyday interactions. I really put a lot of thought into this batch of cotton clothes. Besides selecting top-quality cotton filling that was fluffy yet resistant to clumping, when patting the cotton between layers, I also drew on the framework principles of southern paper kites and the waist-cinching design of northern leather coats. I also specifically hired skilled old craftsmen, using extremely fine yet tough rattan hemp thread. Inconspicuous grid, like partitions, were made inside the cotton coat's lining. This not only prevented the cotton filling from bunching up unevenly during movement, but also made the whole garment fit the body better, reduced drafts, and allowed for more agile movement. The outer layer used dense, wear-resistant fabric, dyed a dark navy blue that wouldn't easily show dirt. The collar, cuffs, and areas most prone to wear were all quietly reinforced with an extra layer. When Yan Fufeng first saw the sample garment, he weighed it in his hands, then carefully felt the inner lining, his eyes flashing with unconcealed admiration. Light, warm, and takes into account the soldier's needs for drilling and combat. "Miss Su, your ingenuity is truly remarkable." His words settled my heart and stirred a faint joy within me. It was the satisfaction of having one's hard work recognized by someone who truly understood. It was praise for Su Tingshe herself. In my previous life, throughout my entire existence, I was merely an appendage to Song Mingyuan, a mere object belonging to the Duke's residence. When had I ever experienced such respect? This time, I really must thank Song Mingyuan for his grace of not saving me. A large batch of cotton coats was sent to the military camp before the first snow. Not long after, news came that the soldiers were full of praise for the new clothes. They all said they were warmer and fit better than those procured in previous years, and wearing them while running didn't affect their movements at all. Somehow, this news reached His Majesty's ears. During a morning court session, he publicly praised Yan Fufeng with the words "handles affairs properly, shows care for the soldiers." Though he didn't directly mention our Su family, this was already a tremendous affirmation. Yan Fufeng said he wanted to thank me and reserved a private room at the renowned Zuisian Tower in the city. That day I arrived about a quarter-hour early and was led by a waiter to a window-side private room on the second floor to wait. Outside the window was a bustling street market, while the interior decor was exquisitely elegant. Two completely different worlds. I was calculating the ingredients for a new batch of cosmetics when the door to the private room was rudely pushed open. The one who entered was actually the third princess, Jia Lingshuang. She was dressed in lavish attire with exquisite makeup, her usual pride evident between her brows. And behind her followed Song Mingyuan, his expression complicated, wanting to speak but holding back. The third princess's gaze seemed to carry thorns, scanning me up and down. After a moment, the corner of her lips curled into a sneer. I wondered who had such refined taste, occupying this fuckshu pavilion all alone. "So it is you, shopkeeper Su." She deliberately emphasized the word shopkeeper, her eyes glancing toward Song Mingyuan beside her, speaking with pointed meaning. What now even lowly merchants want to pretend to be cultured? "Brother Mingyuan, don't you agree?" A trace of embarrassment flashed across Song Mingyuan's face. He glanced at me, his lips moving slightly. He seemed to want to say something. But under the third princess's expectant gaze, he ultimately avoided my eyes and said in a low voice, "Princess, since someone is already here, we can simply find another place." The third princess let out a scornful laugh. Not only did she not leave, she even took a step forward, getting closer to me. This princess has taken a fancy to this very room. "Brother Mingyuan, we sit in this room every time, and I want this one. Su Tingshe, you are just a merchant's daughter, Instead of staying in your shop counting on an abacus, you come here to pretend you are cultured. Have you even considered whether you are worthy? She shot me another sidelong glance, her tone harsh. Could it be you are still harboring delusions? Found out Brother Mingyuan would be here, and shamelessly chased after him, thinking you could use some underhanded tricks to latch onto another high branch. Her words were extremely nasty. If it were my past life being publicly humiliated like this, I would have probably been too mortified to show my face. But now, hearing these familiar yet grating words, I felt no ripples in my heart. I even felt a bit like laughing, latching onto a high branch. All I care about now is cold hard cash, and all I want in this life is to be a free and carefree rich woman. No way am I walking into those dens of wolves and tigers again. Speaking of which, the third princess was one of the top noble ladies in the capital, a walking advertisement. As she made a scene here, quite a few diners and servers, with perked-up ears, gradually gathered around. If I didn't take advantage of such a good opportunity, I'd really be the big idiot she called me. So, not only was I not angry, I instead lifted my head and flashed the third princess a smile full of genuine concern. Please calm your anger, Your Highness. With your noble status, there is really no need to get upset over a lowly woman like me. You see, anger easily harms the liver, and when liver fire flares up, it damages one's complexion the most, especially in this dry winter weather. With the slightest carelessness, the skin can easily lose moisture and turn dull. Your Highness possesses such heavenly beauty, it would be terrible if fine lines appeared. When I finished speaking, not waiting for her to blow up, I took the initiative to pull out an exquisite small white porcelain box from the brocade pouch I carried with me. Opening the lid, inside was a lustrous and translucent light pink cream, emanating an elegant plum blossom fragrance. I quickly waved the box in front of the third princess and began my explanation. This is the Jade Moisture Cream newly developed by our Sioux family's Rouge shop. It uses the secret formula of Consort Wrong, the #1 beauty in the world from 100 years ago. It is made from the stamens of green calyx plum blossoms that first bloom in winter, carefully blended with pearl powder, Solomon's seal, and other ingredients, the most moisturizing and hydrating, soothing any dryness. This product is seasonally limited, only available at this time of year. The green calyx plums used are all plants carefully cultivated daily with cow's milk in the Sioux family's garden, absolutely unique in the world. If you miss this batch, you'll have to wait until next year. If Your Highness doesn't mind, why not give it a try? Meeting Your Highness today must be fate. So let me gift this box to Your Highness to sample. The third princess clearly didn't expect this reaction from me and was momentarily stunned. Even the words she was halfway through cursing got stuck in her throat. But her eyes couldn't help glancing at the exquisite box in my hands. The door of the private room was open, and busybodies had long been poking their heads in to watch. Upon hearing my words, faint murmurs of discussion arose. Huh? Is this the Sioux family's new product? My aunt was just saying the other day that after using some cream of theirs, her face really did become much smoother. Yes, I heard about it too. It seems to be called Jade Luster Cream, very hard to buy. One box is worth 100 gold, even people in the palace have been asking about it. This Miss Sioux is quite interesting. Being humiliated by the princess like this, not only is she not angry, she is still thinking about making a sale, so composed about it. No wonder the Sioux family shops are all doing such booming business. I should go grab a box for my wife tomorrow too, she'll definitely be happy. These murmurs weren't loud yet, were just audible enough to be heard. The third princess's face alternated between green and red, probably feeling both embarrassed by my sales pitch and genuinely tempted by the Jade Luster Cream. Her gaze kept lingering on the porcelain box in my hands, and eventually even her cursing weakened. You are truly shameless who wants your stuff. But though she talked tough, her gaze had lost some of its fierceness and instead held more hesitation. Song Mingyuan stood to the side, watching me take all of the third princess's humiliation without complaint, while still promoting my products with a smile. His expression had completely frozen, as if he was meeting me for the first time. I could guess what he was thinking right now with my toes. It was simply that in my past life I had always been sensitive and docile, treating him as my everything. How could I have become so thick-skinned, with nothing but business on my mind? Just then, a clear and steady voice sounded from the doorway. Whether she is worthy or not is probably not for your highness to decide. I think Miss Su is clever and resourceful, has rendered service to the nation, and is trustworthy in business. Even His Majesty has praised her. Where could she not go? Yanfeng had arrived at some point without anyone noticing. Today he wore an indigo everyday robe, looking dignified and imposing, his posture upright as a pine. He strolled into the private room and walked to my side with perfect ease. His gaze first fell on the porcelain box in my hands, a barely perceptible hint of amusement flickering in his eyes. "Since your highness doesn't like it, Tingshi, why not let me have this box of jade glow cream? Just yesterday, my mother was disappointed, saying she couldn't get Wenyan Pavilion's jade glow cream. If I bring this back for her, she'll surely be delighted." Having said that, he finally looked toward the third princess and casually cupped his hands in greeting. "I was unaware, Her Highness, the princess was here. This Yan has failed to greet you from afar." His etiquette was impeccable, yet his tone was indifferent, without much warmth. He paused for a moment, then continued, "This Yan has arranged a banquet here today, precisely to thank Miss Su for her merit in overseeing military supplies. His Majesty recently praised how well the winter garments were handled this time, showing care for the soldiers. Miss Su has rendered meritorious service to the court and nation. This Yan merely wishes to express gratitude. May I ask if Her Highness the Princess finds anything improper about this?" He had invoked His Majesty's praise. Though his tone was mild, the weight behind it was immense. The third princess couldn't keep her composure and glanced again at the box in my hands. In the end, she couldn't bring herself to accept it. She only let out a cold snort, glared fiercely at me, and swept away with a flick of her sleeves. The princess had left, but Song Mingyuan remained rooted to the spot as if nailed there. He stared fixedly at me, then looked at Yan Fufeng standing beside me in a protective manner, his voice trembling slightly. "When did you two become so intimate? A man and a woman meeting privately in a secluded room. Do you not care about your reputation anymore?" I rolled my eyes. He was the one who wanted to sever our past ties. So why was he putting on this hurt act now? So my attitude was distant, and my voice was cold. When Prince Song and the princess are together, it is considered a beautiful story. But why does it become a secret rendezvous when it is me and General Yan? This is a restaurant, in broad daylight. With everyone watching, we are acting properly and honorably. How can the prince slander us with baseless accusations? Song Mingyuan probably had never seen me act so aggressively, especially toward him. His face turned deathly pale in an instant, looking at me in disbelief. He surely couldn't understand why I greeted the princess, who humiliated me with a smile, yet spoke so harshly to him. Are you still angry at me? I know I was wrong, but... Stop. I hurriedly cut him off, feeling my head was about to explode. If I let him keep talking, who knows what ambiguous rumors about us might spread by tomorrow. If the third princess gets angry, how am I supposed to keep doing business? Please conduct yourself properly, young Master Song. You and I merely met once at a banquet and exchanged poems. We have no other connection whatsoever. My status is lowly. I wouldn't dare aim so high. You'd better hurry and chase after the princess, or you won't be able to catch up." After saying that, I grabbed Yan Fufeng and stepped back right in front of him. With a slam, I shut the private room door hard right in his face. The private room returned to silence. Yan Fufeng lowered his head, a hint of amusement in his eyes, tactfully. He didn't bring up Song Mingyuan, and instead asked with a grin, "Didn't get the short end of the stick, did you? Even made a business deal on the side." I put away the porcelain box, lowered my voice, with a hint of regret. What a pity. Her Highness the Princess is too thin-skinned, so the deal didn't go through. However, I pointed outside the door, somewhat pleased. This time, more people will definitely know about my jade moisturizing cream. This wave wasn't a loss. Yan Fufeng shook his head, seemingly helpless. You've really got your head stuck in money. But why do you need to earn so much silver? I shrugged, sighing that he didn't run a household and didn't know how expensive daily necessities were. In this world, which of the necessities, food, clothing, shelter, transportation, doesn't need money? Especially for a woman. If you want to live with any dignity, you need loads and loads of silver. I am going to earn lots and lots of money, and when I am too old to get by, I'll find a poor and easy-to-control man to marry into my family. Then I'll be in charge of my own life, and never give anyone the chance to control me. Yan Fufeng was stunned, seemingly not expecting these words from me. A moment later, he suddenly burst into laughter. While laughing, he reached out and braced his hand against the wall, trapping me in the middle. Although this Yan isn't exactly poor, I am very easy to control. I wonder if I have a chance to become Ting Shu's live-in husband. I opened my mouth, stunned on the spot by his words. Yan Fufeng was certainly many times better than Song Mingyuan, but he is a general. How could I possibly control him? No way. Even though my heart was pounding, I wouldn't allow myself to stumble a second time on such a lifelong matter. Fortunately, Yan Fufeng was quite tactful too. Seeing my eyes darting around, he wasn't annoyed. Instead, he suddenly sniffed, naturally let go of me, and turned around. The 8 treasure-gourd duck I ordered in advance is here. They only sell 3 of these a day. Let's eat first. I immediately sat up straight and proper, eyes fixed ahead. Suppressing my still wildly racing heartbeat, I told myself not to rush. I've already lived 2 lifetimes. Why would I fear a young lad's teasing? But despite saying that, I still began deliberately keeping my distance from Yan Fufeng. I wasn't some naive young girl. That increasingly clear admiration and desire to get closer in his eyes. I could read it, and precisely because I could read it, I needed to stay clear-headed. He was an eagle soaring through the 9 heavens, a rising military star the Emperor relied upon, and all I sought in this life was merely the freedom I could hold firmly in my own hands. So whenever he came to visit, I would conveniently happen to be out. The novel trinkets he sent through messengers, I returned with gifts of equal value. If he had important matters to discuss, I would only talk business. My manner polite yet distant. Yan Feng was such a perceptive person. After just a few times, he saw through my intentions. Those eyes that were always bright gradually became tinged with disappointment, but he never called it out. Nor did he ever pressure me. He simply came less frequently. Both being people who understood the heart well, we naturally both grasped those words left unspoken. I threw all my energy into the business. Not only did Yaroon cream sell like hotcakes, but the other shops were also doing booming business. I made a fortune. Holding the thick account books, that sense of fullness and security was enough to offset the occasional emptiness that surfaced in my heart. Just as I was preparing to expand the business further, an uninvited guest arrived. Song Mingyuan chose to come one evening. Most of the workers in the shop had gone off duty. With only 2 old masters tidying up in the back, he stood in the somewhat empty shop, his face looking rather haggard. "Ting Shay, let's talk," he called out intimately, as if there had never been any discord between us. I continued fiddling with the abacus in my hands, my tone flat, not even lifting my head to look at him. "Young Lord Song, if you have something to say, please speak. The shop is about to close. My parents are still waiting for me to come home for dinner." He seemed not to catch the dismissal in my words, instead stepping forward, appearing somewhat agitated. "I've thought about it for a long time, suffered for a long time, and finally found a solution that works for both sides." I raised an eyebrow. Although I really didn't want to hear it, he obviously wasn't going to shut up. Sure enough, he took a deep breath, as if steeling himself with great resolve. "I can take you as my honored concubine. As for the princess, I'll handle it properly. You can rest assured. If you like doing business, you can keep doing it. With the princess connection in place, I can even help you pull some strings and make you an imperial merchant. By then, who would still dare mock you for being a mere merchant? Wife or concubine, it is just a title. As long as we're sincere with each other, I'll definitely treasure you like a pearl, like a jewel, and we'll be just like our past life, growing old together." He spoke with such heartfelt sincerity, probably even moved by his own willingness to make these arrangements for me, his eyes burning as he looked at me. Perhaps he was expecting me to be like in our past life, with my heart and eyes full of only him. I quietly looked at him, this man I once loved with everything I had, and suddenly felt utterly disgusted. How blind must I have been back then, to pour my heart and soul out to such a person for a lifetime. I spoke coldly, my voice devoid of any warmth. Song Mingyuan, do you really think that all the women in the world should revolve around you? Should be tearfully grateful to accept the concubine position you are graciously bestowing? The excited expression on his face suddenly froze, and he looked at me in disbelief. I walked toward him step by step, my brows full of mockery. Your so-called best of both worlds means wanting both the princess's support, while also refusing to give up my wholehearted service. And if I become an imperial merchant, the Su family's businesses can still be used by you, paving the way for your career. Your scheming is practically smacking me right in the face. He anxiously tried to explain. No, Tingshe, I really can't let you go. In our past life, didn't we also live happily ever after? I've realized I still can't bear to part with you. I let out a scornful laugh. Can't bear to part. What you can't bear to part with is the me who obeyed your every word and let you take whatever you wanted. Blame me for being stupid in my past life, never figuring it out until the very end. The reason you came to propose to me was just to perfect your own reputation. Besides, the Duke's manor was declining day by day, and you happened to need a wife whose family was rich and easy to manipulate. I was the perfect candidate, but you still regretted it. So you decided to cut ties with me in this life. Yet you discovered that the me in this life is more accomplished than in my past life, receiving praise from His Majesty, and might be useful to you. So you couldn't wait to come find me, am I right? Shut up. You must have been corrupted by that brute Yan Fufeng. How did you become such a shrew? His thoughts exposed. His face flushed bright red, all composure gone. Not a trace remained of the charm that once attracted me. You think you are the only one who regretted the past life. Actually, so did I, young lord. Go back. The princess is still waiting for you. Song Mingyuan's face turned deathly pale from my scolding, his figure swaying as if about to collapse. The self-indulgent affection in his eyes had all turned to shame, fury, and humiliation. When had the lofty young lord of the Duke's manor ever suffered such humiliation? Can't be helped. He was the one who came begging to be scolded. He flung his sleeves and practically fled in defeat, his retreating figure never looking as panicked and flustered as it did now. I watched coldly as he disappeared into the dusk, then calmly said to the dumbfounded old master in the corner, "Close the door, bolt it. If this person comes again in the future, no need to announce him, just drive him away directly." Latter Song Mingyuan came a few more times, but I refused to see him every time. But the person I was secretly waiting for every day never came again either. When I received the news that Yan Fufeng had urgently returned to the border, I was checking the accounts of the new shop. Yan Fufeng's personal guard Zhao Li stood before me in full military attire, expressionlessly relaying the words he left for me. Take care. Just 2 measly words. Yet he still sent someone to make a special trip. Seeing me dazed, Zhao Li couldn't help but add, "There was an urgent report from the border. The general has been preparing these past few days, which is why he didn't have time to come bid farewell to Miss in person." Actually, I would have understood even without his explanation. This time the situation was urgent. He bore heavy responsibilities, and the fact that he could send someone to notify me already showed he was a man who valued sentiment and loyalty. Zhao Li was anxious to catch up with the departing army. I wanted to calm my mind and finish the accounts, but the tip of my brush could no longer move smoothly. The thick black ink kept spreading into blots, one after another, on the paper, just like my heart that couldn't calm down no matter what. In my previous life, it seemed to be this very battle. Because of insufficient provisions, Yan Fufeng never came back. A bone-chilling coldness shot up from the soles of my feet. I abruptly stood up, not even caring that I knocked over my chair. I immediately summoned the managers of all the shops and began preparing to sell off some easily liquidated storefronts, stockpiled materials, and inventory. Then I withdrew all available cash, mobilized every connection I could use, and contacted reliable grain merchants, horse teams, and escort agencies. I personally stepped forward, sparing no cost, and in the shortest time possible gathered enough provisions and medicine to sustain an army for several months. When my parents learned what I was going to do, they both encouraged me and told me to go ahead. When I signed the contracts, my hands were trembling. The old manager's voice was unsteady. "Miss, this is almost all of our family's fortune." My voice was unusually calm, only I knew my heart was beating so fast it was about to leap out of my chest. "I know, use the most concealed and fastest route to send it out. Don't worry about anything else. Money can be earned again, shops can be reopened. But there is only one Yan Fufeng. He must be safe and sound." Not until the news confirmed that the supply convoy had secretly departed did I collapse into my chair, completely drained. Looking at the warehouses and ledgers that were nearly half empty, I realized with unprecedented clarity for the first time that guy Yan Fufeng had somehow, without me noticing, barged his way into my heart. His weight was so heavy that I could stake everything I'd worked hard to earn without a moment's hesitation. The days of waiting were utterly agonizing. News from the border came in good and bad turns, and not a single day could I truly calm my mind to properly manage my business. But what finally came through secret channels was actually the worst news of all. Yan Fufeng led light cavalry to lure the enemy deep, mistakenly entered a canyon, encountered an ambush, and his remains were incomplete. The teacup in my hand fell to the ground with a clang, as if shattering to pieces along with my heart. I bent over, pressing hard against my violently aching chest. When I came back to my senses, my face was already covered in tears. For a whole half-month, I felt like an empty shell without a soul. My parents watched me with deep worry. I simply moved into the shop, wanting to numb my senses with busyness. But in the dead of night, my heart still felt terribly empty. I sat by the window, murmuring to the flickering candlelight. What a heartless man, swindled all my family fortune, yet couldn't even come back himself. If I'd known, I would have devoured you completely and kept your seed first, so I wouldn't have to pick and choose for a live-in husband again. The emotions suppressed for days finally seemed to find an outlet. I buried my head in the crook of my arm and burst into loud sobs. "You bastard. So useless. Ate so much of my grain yet couldn't even keep your life, making me lose both the man and my money. What a huge bastard." Just as I was crying uncontrollably, the window lattice suddenly made a very faint sound. I looked up alertly and saw a dark shadow sweep into the room like a specter, landing silently in front of me. The newcomer was dressed in all black night clothes, face covered, with only a pair of eyes showing. I stepped back in shock, about to scream. But then those eyes curved up under the moonlight, vaguely familiar. "It is not too late to stay now. Come on, do whatever you want with me. I absolutely won't resist." The voice was somewhat deep and hoarse, also annoyingly flirty, not quite familiar. But the other person had already pulled off the face cloth, revealing dark stubble on his jaw. He was travel-worn and dusty, yet the smile at the corner of his lips grew wider and wider. With that punchable face, who else could it be but Yan Fufeng? He pressed one hand on his waist, making a show of pulling off his sash, while taking large strides, getting closer and closer to me. "Do you prefer I undress myself or you help me undress?" The wind and sand carrying the scent of cedar swept over my senses. I snapped back to my senses and jumped up, pointing at him and stammering, You stop right there." He obediently stood in place, a hint of grievance showing in his eyes. "I specially bathed before coming. I don't smell. Want a sniff?" I opened and closed my mouth. Clearly there were so many things I wanted to ask, but in the end only one sentence came out. Weren't you supposed to be dead without a trace?" It was a feigned death to lure the enemy. I didn't say goodbye to you in person, yet I'd eaten so much of your provisions, so I just wanted to end the battle quickly. Thanks to you, the Northern DI have been completely crushed and shouldn't invade again for decades. I was afraid you'd be heartbroken if you really believed the news of my fake death, so I rushed back without stopping. His Adam's apple bobbed, and he reached out a finger, as if wanting to wipe my tears. His hand stopped midair, then dropped back down, as he tentatively spoke. "I am fine. Don't cry anymore." I exploded the moment I heard that. Feelings are something you really shouldn't get involved with. I was clearly known for being ruthless in the business world, and I'd even deliberately rejected him before. Yet here I was, being all dramatic and hiding away to cry over him in secret. And he caught me red-handed. How embarrassing. So I could only put on a tough front. I am just crying because all my assets are gone. Upon hearing this, Yanfeng's gaze turned so soft, it seemed like water could drip from it. "Yes, thanks to you. During our most difficult time, you saved the lives of most of our brothers. You also gave us peace of mind, allowing us to thoroughly defeat the Northern DI. The fortune you worked so hard to build up was all spent by me. Fortunately, I still have some left, and might have even more in a while. Plus, I have a good temper and am especially easy to push around. So I want to ask, am I qualified to marry into your family? Boss Su?" The candle wick crackled with a snap. The room fell completely silent, only the sound of our 2 heartbeats, so loud they almost drowned out everything else. "This, hard to say, but since you've already bathed, why don't I inspect the goods first? After all, I am recruiting a husband to marry in. If the body isn't up to par, I won't be able to bear healthy and strong child." The unfinished words were sealed in my mouth. The night was still long. When the golden March sunlight blanketed the long street, I sat in the 8-bearer palanquin heading to the general's manor. The wedding dress on me was red like fire, the phoenix crown on my head so heavy it weighed down my neck. But my heart felt like it held a bird, fluttering and wanting to take flight. Outside, gongs and drums thundered, everyone discussing how this spectacle rivaled a princess's wedding. This was not only Yan Fufeng's honor, but also the grace bestowed by the emperor. The marriage was personally bestowed by the emperor, along with the imperial edict, officially conferring me the title of imperial merchant. From then on, the Su family's business had the confidence of being backed by the imperial family. The entrance of the general's manor was bustling like a marketplace. Yet a burst of jarring commotion erupted from behind the crowd. That voice I had almost forgotten, yet it clearly reached my ears, so out of place. "Ting Shui, don't marry him. I know I was wrong. I don't want the princess anymore. Don't want anyone else. I only beg you to return to my side. We'll grow old together. Just like in our past life." Sung Mingyuan must have truly gone mad, to actually dare say such words in the middle of the street. Before I could respond, 2 burly men approached, one on each side. They twisted his arms behind his back and quickly dragged him away from the crowd. Yan Fufeng slightly turned to the side, blocking everyone's view of me, cupped his fists and loudly addressed the surroundings. I've long heard that young Lord Song hasn't been doing well, but I never expected he'd developed hysteria. Quickly send him back to the 3rd princess and have the imperial physician treat him properly, lest his condition be delayed. Behind me, Song Mingyuan's unwilling whimpers and struggles quickly faded into the distance, soon disappearing into the renewed commotion. Like a speck of dust, brushed away without a trace. I had also heard about Song Mingyuan's situation long ago, after he married the 3rd princess. The entire mansion fell under the princess's control. Zhao Lingshuang was jealous by nature with an extremely strong need for control, barely allowing him to speak with any other woman. Song Mingyuan's expenses, social interactions, even going out, everything required her permission. The Duke and his wife dared not speak out against this royal daughter-in-law, despite their anger. The original servants in the mansion were sold off at the slightest displeasure. Rumor had it that even maid Song Mingyuan glanced at one more time, would vanish without a trace the next day. Song Mingyuan's life as a prince consort was utterly suffocating. Occasionally, when drunk, I heard he would mutter about me. But so what? The honor he coveted became his cage, and the sincere heart he abandoned no longer belonged to him. Red candles burned brightly. The night was deep and quiet. In the bridal chamber, Yanfeng placed a small personal seal into my palm. His brows and eyes held a smile, his gaze reflecting only me. My salary, rewards, land properties, and the keys to the storeroom. from now on are all entrusted to my wife. Your husband will invest wholeheartedly in my wife's business empire. Our family's affairs, I'll trouble my wife to steer the ship from now on." I caressed that seal still warm from his body, feeling nothing but warmth in my heart. I once thought that making money was the only way out in this life. Only now do I understand that finding someone willing to hold the pen with you, who respects every stroke you make, is the best choice. Being the richest in the world is wonderful. Deep and lasting love is also precious. And now, I seem to already have both.